The second piece of work that I have chosen to write about is called The Scream, also known as The Cry. The artist behind The Scream was Edward Munch. This painting is a very iconic piece of art in modern times, considering that it was made in 1893. During this time, there was a transitional period in art history. The Scream was painted after the end of the photographic realist era, when artists wanted to show off their technical skills, using photography, of course. And it was painted right before the Expressionists and other artists of the earliest 20th century tried to make it a trend to put a focus on the expression of their inner feelings and emotions through their art rather than displaying how realistically they could paint an image or object. So Expressionism was all about emotion. It was also quite popular because it's been a target of several high-profile art thefts. The Scream has, I think, been stolen twice, but returned back. This comes to show that even the most simplest compositions are so powerful. And oh my, is The Scream a powerful painting. It was made in Norway where Munch grew up. The Scream is said to be the first expressionist painting. Munch's life was quite unfortunate, as his mother and older sister died of tuberculosis, and the only one of his siblings who was able to get married died as well. Good thing Munch didn't die, although he did fall ill many times during his childhood. Munch used art to express his feelings about his experiences and to let all that anger contained inside himself out. In my opinion, that is the best way to recover from an emotional turmoil and anxiety. His mentors encouraged him to do so. The Scream was clearly one of the ways he let his anger out. So we can say that the Scream was created because of all the sadness and insanity in his life which affected and influenced his work. Interestingly enough, Munch's sister had been hospitalized for insanity at the same time the Scream was painted. Could the figure be her thoughts, or how he is choosing to deal with all the personal insanities he has to deal with in some way? He got the inspiration to paint the Scream while looking at a scenic view of Norway from a mountaintop. This sounds like something beautiful, but Munch had his own interpretation to it. This is his story exactly. He said, "I was walking down the road with two friends when the sun set. Suddenly, the sky, which turned red as blood, I stopped and leaned against the fence, feeling unspeakably tired. Tongues of fire and blood stretched over the bluish-black ford. My friends went on walking, while I lagged behind, shivering with fear. Then I heard the enormous, infinite scream of nature." The composition shows a ghastly and spooky figure with an agonized expression on a boardwalk overlooking a spiraling river or fjord, what he said in Swedish, and a captivating orange sky. The composition includes two people in the distant background that might be the friends of Munch that was walking along the bridge. The scream is a visual perception. By looking at it, you can clearly imagine a scream screeching out of the person's mouth. By the way, he is cupping his face. The scream would be piercing one. By the way that he is cupping his face, the scream would be a piercing one that could be heard from miles away, I could imagine. Therefore, this painting enhances our visual sense and our visual experience as it creates an imaginary auditory perception. I can clearly feel a shiver go down my spine when viewing this painting. It literally takes over my mind and senses. There's just so much going on at once. Munch took what was supposed to be a beautiful sunset and transformed it into something mysterious. Munch is really describing a moment of an almost existential personal crisis. Once Munch had looked at the sky bleeding red at sunset, it's almost as if he had a mental breakdown and felt the need to let his inner scream out. And so the reason why he chose the dark oranges and red for the sky is to illustrate that what he saw or what he thought he saw. We have a flowing river, the dusky sky, the extending boardwalk that seems to never end, and of course the mysterious person standing on the bridge screaming, and no one knows exactly why. To me, the red sky symbolizes a volcanic eruption, of his thoughts and is like the explosion of his breakdown. Munch had used bright, saturated, and exaggerated colors and simplistic figures and shapes. All in all, this piece of art is highly effective as it shows us Munch's exact and honest, even ugly glimpse of his inner troubles and feelings of anxiety throughout his painting. There is broken color, the brush strokes creating the river swirl, which create a sense of motion and carries our eyes around the painting. The blazing sky flows off the page and doesn't move up or down, hence the sunset. Overall, the composition is made up of lines that are delicate and defined yet bold, in both sizes thick and thin. The movement is swirling, flowing, and very, very dramatic. This creates variation and keeps the style of the composition interesting. The tone is very dramatic and exaggerated, especially the face of the screamer. The shape of the face is elongated and curvaceous. There is depth in the composition because the only thing that seems to be coming out of the painting is Munch himself, while the rest is the scenic background. Even though the context of the painting is horrific and sad, the painting itself is fun and playful, but mysterious at the same time, and the colors used are also bright. The painting was made using tempera and pastel on board, which is how he was able to get such bright colors really pop in your eyes. All in all, this piece of art is highly effective as it shows us Munch's exact and honest, even ugly glimpse of his inner troubles and feelings of anxiety through his paintings, as I said before. The scream may very well come back to the decidedly ugly, even hideous sounds of living things undergoing both physical and emotional suffering during the modern age. So we can conclude that the figure was Munch's inner anger, inner anxiety. For me, this was a very powerful painting. It's so captivating, and the meaning behind it is amazing. Not to mention, the artist, Edward Munch, is absolutely mind-blowing. One of the greatest artists of all time. It relates to Inside Out because I feel like doing something that's coming from inside the body and displaying it outside onto the page. So I want to take maybe my anger and frustration out, just like Munch did.